The native Jehovah's Witness swarm like suited magpies from their discreet homes to infest our neighborhoods with proclamations of the end of the world as we know it. Whoa! G'day, NotJah here for the second part of our look at this year's Jehovah's Witness Circuit Assembly, Be Strong, where we begin covering their summary of the Watchtower magazine. I hope you have your popcorn and facepalm safety glove on because you surely will need it. Before we start, this video was sponsored, kind of, by my VICs, that is my patrons, especially my top donor and Vic420s. I'm gonna throw one of your names up hereth, so everyone show your love for them in the comments. You make all the difference, and you all mean the world to me. Want to be a VIC? Throw $1 at me and become a patron and help support the channel. The link is down below. Alright, I hope you're all ready, cause we're doing this.
The weekly Watchtower study trains and strengthens us to do Jehovah's will. Let's now give our attention to Brother from the congregation and his participants as they present a summary of this week's lesson.
So we invite you, as our chairman just mentioned, to get out your December Watchtower. It's our last article, and once again notice the theme of our Watchtower today. Young ones, you can have a satisfying life.
So, to give you a quick general idea of what you're about to listen to, this is the weekly Watchtower study for Jehovah's Witnesses, but being a large event, they will not be reading through the paragraphs and only focusing on the questions in a summary format. For those who want to follow along at home, I will be showing the paragraphs to this Watchtower article that they are discussing as they go, and it is also linked down below. We will be hearing the highly scripted answers of brothers and sisters from a local congregation, ranging from children to adults, and usually baptized in response to these Watchtower article chapters. I still have memories of being up on stage doing this very thing myself as a child, regrettably.
So if you're a young person, imagine if you could just walk up to a vending machine and on the top it says, life. And on the left side there's a big red button, and on the right there's a big green button. And the green button says good, and the red button says bad. What button do you think you would be drawn to?
I want to stop him right here and ask, by whose definition of a good or bad life? But we all know the answer to that, and they sure are about to hammer it into us.
Of course you're going to go for the good one. And so it's like that, with your life as a young person, you have to make some pretty big decisions, but they're going to impact you for the rest of your life, some of those decisions. Like what? Well, making friends, trying to avoid pitfalls, setting goals. These are just a few of the things that our Watchtower today will discuss. So what's the key to finding a satisfying life? Well, notice Psalm 16 verse 11. It says in part, you make known to me the path of life. So it's speaking about Jehovah, he makes known to us the path of life. That's the key to a satisfying life. If you notice there, it's taken from Psalm 16, and all through our Watchtower today we're going to go through some highlights of Psalm 16. Notice in our box, it asks the question, how can Psalm 16 help us to make Jehovah our portion? How can Psalm 16 help us to choose good friends and set worthwhile goals and cultivate a love for what is good and a hatred for what is bad? Because of the format at a circuit level, we don't have the paragraphs read, and so we're just going to go straight into asking the questions, and our brothers and sisters have prepared their comments. So we invite you to follow along. So firstly, in paragraphs 1 and 2, what kind of change is possible, as illustrated by the experience of a high school student? Sister.
Have the experience of Tony. He was a high school student who didn't seem to have much purpose in life. He wasn't interested in his education, and his grades sadly reflected that. He also had doubts about God's existence, but then one day he met a witness couple, and they gave him 2 brochures on creation. Tony studied those brochures carefully and decided that there had to be a God. So he accepted a Bible study and came to know Jehovah. That was the best decision of Tony's life. He started to focus on his studies and became one of the best students at school, and that led to a fine witness. Now, our brother serves as a regular pioneer and a ministerial servant.
Thank you, lovely.
It is interesting to see how they connect their Bible study and coming closer to God with bettering school grades and more focus on education. Isn't it ironic? So, regular pioneer and ministerial servant. But has Josh continued that education and gained a degree or maybe doctorate? Of course not. They don't want him to actually continue his education. They just need him to be a proficient enough to read, write and communicate so that he can be the best publisher that he can be.
So here we can see that Tony didn't have a very satisfying life to start with, and that really affected everything he did. However, when he made the effort to come to know Jehovah, he saw how much Jehovah truly loved and cared for him. And as Psalm 68 verse 5 says, he gained a father, being a fatherless boy. So now Tony had a purpose, which also led to a truly satisfying life. So we can learn from Tony that coming to know Jehovah can completely change our lives for the better.
Excellent. Thank you.
The idea that you have no purpose or meaning in life without finding Jehovah, that your entire life is wasted if you don't find and obey Jehovah, is completely, fundamentally flawed and a very haughty position to hold. And in fact, I felt quite the opposite. When I was a witness and even just an independent theist, I really struggled to find my own meaning because I knew it was all about God and His plan. I would be just so lucky to fall on His good side, and if the J-dubs were right, well, I had no hope. Since realizing how much bullshit I was sold has freed me to discover my own purpose and meaning in life. I've finally started living this one life I have for me, and not for some imaginary daddy figure threatening me with everlasting death.
Well, notice in our first subheading, one of the real keys to having a satisfying and successful life, it says, obey Jehovah, and you will succeed. So, what course does Jehovah recommend for young ones?
Well, Jehovah's gone to great effort to show his interest in young ones by recording in the Bible scriptures such as Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 1. Through scriptures such as this one, he's trying to encourage them to remember him in his youth, and he guarantees that if they do so, they'll have a truly successful and satisfying life. The training they receive will guide them not just during their youth, but throughout all eternity.
Excellent. Brother.
In today's world, as a young person, it can be really hard to do everything Jehovah's way, but we know with his help we can succeed. Satan will do everything he can to stop us, but Jehovah is more powerful. We can also learn a lot from David and Goliath and the Israelites' conquest of the Promised Land.
In case the youth in their voices didn't make it obvious, these are children on stage, and one of them at least was baptized at this very assembly, despite barely being a teenager, dedicating the rest of their life as a slave to the Watchtower organization. It's funny how they are portrayed up there as the fine, mature-minded young brothers and sisters to serve as good examples for the other kids who are less focused on the good work. But then, once off stage at intermission, they are running around through the chairs playing games with all the other kids. Unfortunately, one of the very few places where the witnesses are still growing in numbers is through those being born in. However, even within that category, they are facing a lot of fading members, and it pales in comparison to the droves leaving and scarcity of converts.
This is in paragraph 4 and 5. What valuable lesson can we learn from the Israelites' conquest of Canaan and from David's encounter with Goliath?
Got close to the land of Canaan, Jehovah did not tell them to train for war, but he told them that they needed to trust him and follow his commandments. From a human's point of view, this would have seemed like strange advice. However, if the Israelites obeyed Jehovah, they knew he would give them victory over the Canaanites, which he had done many times. And because the Israelites listened to Jehovah's instructions, they succeeded. In the picture, it looks like the Israelites are looking at the Promised Land, while Joshua, with confidence, is passing Jehovah's instructions on to the men of Israel.
Hold up, hey,
The bit that caught me up here is where she mentioned to trust in God despite it being strange advice from a human's point of view. This simple ideology is used just the same when deciding to take the world's advice or the Watchtowers on matters such as, should I accept this life-saving blood transfusion or not?
Goliath was a mighty and skilled warrior. He was almost 3 meters tall and had dangerous weapons. David was only a shepherd boy, and his only weapon was a sling and his faith in Jehovah. In the opening illustration, it shows a really good example of the size difference between David and Goliath. And to anyone, this would have been a frightening situation. And this was the case with those who did not share David's faith. They didn't want to volunteer for the task, and they all thought David was crazy to be taking on someone twice his size and with only a sling. But we know in reality it was Goliath who was the crazy one, as he had no faith in Jehovah.
And so you hear how easy it is for them to justify their blind faith in God over anyone questioning them. They truly believe that they can face and overcome the most unlikely of challenges with nothing but their faith in Jehovah. Their example is David versus Goliath, because of course it is, that they take this to real extremes and are proud to do so. Look at what is going on in Russia at the moment. They are being arrested and tortured by the state, and yet take it as their test from Jehovah to prove their faith. They take their preaching activities underground, literally in some cases, to continue their work knowing full well that it could lead them to grief. And these are paraded as the good JW examples of strong faith and a warning to believers all around the world that the end is near for this system. I kid you not, this is the message being sent.
So looking at those two illustrations, what would you say would be the takeaway, the valuable lesson that we can learn?
So we can see from the example of the Israelites and David, their strong faith and confidence in Jehovah led them to success.
Very good. Thank you both.
This success is judged very narrowly, mind you. It is success in the eyes of Jehovah. You won't have a rich, successful career. No, certainly not. You will have a rich and successful ministry.
Notice in paragraph 6, we're going to just have a highlight look at our article in more detail. So what will we now consider in further detail, Brother?
Last week, we looked at 4 things that leads to happiness and success in life. We will now look into these areas in more detail, considering the principles found in Psalm 16. The 4 areas are satisfying our spiritual needs, appreciating our God-given friends in the Christian congregation, setting worthwhile spiritual goals, and cherishing our God-given freedoms.
God-given freedoms, which are different for the sisters than the brothers. The brothers certainly take the lion's share of spiritual freedoms within the congregation, and those freedoms absolutely don't extend to enjoying pleasures of the world or having worldly friends. It was your spiritual congregation, spiritual needs, spiritual goals, and give thanks for your God-given freedoms. Everything about being a Jehovah's Witness is the antithesis of freedom. It is about servitude to an almighty being.
So notice the first of those points. How can we satisfy our spiritual need? So Sister, in paragraph 7a, asks the question, how would you describe a spiritual person?
Well, a spiritual person thinks like God and looks to him for guidance in all things. And 1 Corinthians 2:12 and 13 highlights this when it says that these ones would accept Jehovah's wisdom and spirit over human wisdom. So a spiritual person would clearly show by their actions and words that they have Jehovah's thinking on matters, and they are determined to obey him in all that they do.
In all matters, take on Jehovah's thinking over humans, Jehovah's wisdom over a human's wisdom. Should I go to university, become a physicist, or should I skip university, become a pioneer? Josh taught us that the field ministry is more important than a proper education. Should I let myself feel these feelings for this person of the same gender, or should I live in the closet to appease God? Well, it's pretty obvious which side God is on that one. Should I choose my family or my God? Should I choose potentially my life or Jehovah? All these things decided for them and justified by their blind faith in the word of their Watchtower. And this brings up the contradictions of not following man's direction, yet they will reason using man's word printed by the Watchtower organisation, often over the directed words written in the Bible, ignoring the fact that it was also just written by men. But anywho.
We have a read scripture, so would you like to turn to Psalm 16? And we'll get Sister to read verses 9 and 11.
So my heart rejoices, my whole being is joyful, and I reside in security. In verse 11, you make known to me the paths of life. In your presence is abundance joy. There is happiness at your right hand forever.
I can't help but notice that they left out verse 10 there.
Thank you. So a big question asks, what was David's portion and how did this affect him?
Well, David's portion was his strong personal relationship with Jehovah, in whom he took refuge in good times and bad. What I really enjoyed was verse 9 in chapter 16, where it says, my whole being is joyful, meaning his heart was complete towards Jehovah. He felt safe and secure, and nothing made him more happier. But David's action really showed he was a real spiritual man. So we too can also have the same portion as David did, and have the same intimacy also can be ours if we just allow Jehovah to guide us.
Note in the paragraph it says an approved relationship with God. This approval comes by means of the governing body and congregation elders. To get close to Jehovah, you must be approved by these men. And they can, and do, use that power as bargaining chips and emotional blackmail. For example, if you do not live up to their standards, no matter what scriptures you might bring in your defense, they can pretty much ruin your life and everything you have known. And that is no exaggeration.
Paragraph 8 asks the question, what are some factors that contribute to a truly satisfying life?
There's something that Jehovah really appreciates, and that's when his intelligent creatures give him unselfish love.
Not that intelligent, evidently. Nah, bad nutshell. Bad. But let's be honest, the ironing is rather tasty.
And the way we generate this love is by reading his word, the Bible, examining the creation around us, and just experiencing his marvellous blessings. And I think this brother in Canada would speak for probably millions of us when he said that just the experience of Jehovah as a friend just makes him want to make Jehovah's work the central part of his whole life. And basically, it's so satisfying when we reach this point. We make Jehovah really happy, and obviously ourselves extremely happy, and we find it's the most satisfying life that we could ever have.
If you make Jehovah happy, it will make you happy. A little later in this very program, my family will pretty much say the same thing. What they don't say on stage is all the caveats to that. All the things that make them unhappy with their life, because they know that would just mean they're not close enough to Jehovah in the eyes of their congregation and elders.
Paragraph 9 asks the question, how can you allow God's word to mould you as it did David?
By meditating on Jehovah's thoughts and allowing them to mould me, this will help me to grow in my love for Jehovah and my desire to obey him. It will also help me grow spiritually.
Lovely, thank you. So, would you like to now turn to Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3? And we'll get Sister to read that for us. Thanks.
It says, you will safeguard those who fully lean on you. You will give them continuous peace, because it is in you that they trust.
So as noted at Isaiah 26:3, a spiritual outlook on life has what advantages?
Well, it gives us the knowledge and insight to see the world and its future through Jehovah's eyes. So no doubt Jehovah, he really wants us to set good priorities, to make wise decisions, so that we can look to the future with confidence. And as Isaiah mentions, we can be confident because Jehovah will safeguard us and give us peace.
Peace. Peace. When, in human history, has any wisdom from God brought us peace? Unless that wise decision from Jehovah is to not take blood in a life-saving transfusion and let your newborn baby rest in peace only minutes into life. That was Jehovah's wise plan for my future. Those decisions in life are fine when it is what you want to do with your time and who you want to hang around with. If it really makes you happy to submit to that publishing company, go for it. But the other side of that coin is much darker. When you are required to give up your life or even somebody else's for that same publishing company and their idea of a god.
So looking at that section there, satisfying our spiritual need. So how can Psalm 16 help us to make Jehovah our portion?
Well, we can do this by really getting to know Jehovah, by meditating on his word and really thinking about the loving advice that he's giving to us. And when we align our thinking to Jehovah's thinking, then we're making him our portion.
Thank you. Excellent.
Excellent? This isn't even subtle brainwashing, but it is just so brazen that nobody there realizes what is happening. Submit your thinking to Jehovah's way of thinking. Never question the Watchtower and governing body.
Well, we're now going to look at how Psalm 16 can help us to make true friends. We have our read scripture there in Psalm 16:3. This is in paragraph 11. So, Sister, would you like to read that scripture for us? Thanks.
Psalm 16:3 says, "And the holy ones in the earth, the majestic ones, bring me great delight."
So 11 asks, how did David reveal the key to making true friends?
Well, David really knew the secret to finding true friends. He found great delight in the company of holy ones because they were morally clean and upright. They were concerned about keeping God's commandments. And we can apply that today by choosing friends that are spiritually minded and that uphold God's standards. And of course, we can find these in our Christian congregation and of all ages.
Thank you very much.
The native Jehovah's Witness is hard to spot when camouflaged in everyday wear. We only see them in the wild, roughly twice a week, when they swarm like suited magpies from their discreet homes and kingdom halls to infest our neighborhoods with their Bible-bashing literature and proclamations of the end of the world as we know it. However, here today, a very rare thing indeed. We witness the native Jehovah's Witness off guard in its own secret burrow, as it is slowly but surely conditioned by their elders to surround themselves with only others of their type and seclude themselves from the rest of the world. So I did that take in a whole lot of different ways, and that one there was just bad enough for me to keep.
Paragraph 12 asks, what was the basis for the friendship between David and Jonathan?
Just as in the Bible, it mentioned a beautiful friendship between Jonathan and David. Even Jonathan was about 30 years older than David, but they have a strong bond of friendship.
That there should really be on a list of things not to be spoken by a JW these days, especially in Australia.
What makes that? That both of those brothers, the older brothers, they have respect, love, respect, and trust to Jehovah. The second one, they trust and love and trust each other. And then the third one is both of them, those brothers, they fight for Jehovah's enemies. And Brother Lisa was thinking how I benefit from that. Well, in the congregation where we belong, there is brothers old, young, but we have to select our brothers to be good friends. If they love and respect Jehovah and trust Jehovah, we can be good friends.
For the record, as far as I know, at least, the JWs here have not been told much about the current court cases, but they have been told that if they hear anything on the news or social media to just ignore it as Satan's manipulative lies, basically. Correct me if I'm wrong. And out of the other side of the mouth, they will be cursing the Catholics as the epitome of Christendom. You know, the amalgamation of other world's religions as one force of evil controlled by Satan. That old chestnut.
In paragraph 12, it asks the question, on 13, sorry, how can you broaden your circle of friends? Can you please give an example?
We can make friends from around the world. People who love Jehovah. People of many different kinds of background and cultures like Kira. When we make friendships like this, we can see Jehovah's Spirit uniting us in the same way that Jonathan and David found the great delight.
Okay, I did not pick up on this the other day, but they ask a question about meeting foreign friends and so decide that this is when to put someone of Asian descent on the stage to answer. I can't help but feel that her descent may have played a part in her getting that particular role. They most likely didn't have ill intent in the decision, but when you're in an Asian minority assembly and the only one on stage answers the question about making foreign friends, it's just a little sus. I actually can't tell what would be worse, spotlighting her on this question if she was born in an Asian country, or if she's actually born and bred Australian. Either way, it's a bit on the nose.
Thank you. So looking at that section there, if you were to sum up, how can Psalm 16 help us to make good friends?
In Psalm 16:3, the holy ones in the earth, the majestic ones, means those who love Jehovah. So the best way to choose good friend is to find those who fear and obey Jehovah.
Thank you. Good summary.
It seems the only way to have a happy, productive and social life is to obey Jehovah. I wonder how the rest of us manage to cope. So, for the sake of our sanity, I'm going to stop it here and leave the rest for that last video. Do you by any chance sense a message in all of this? Get the feeling they're trying to get something across to stick in the brain parts? Obey us, obey us, obey us, or face the consequences. If you manage to get through all of that, don't worry, there will only be one more video covering this shit show. Make sure you hit all the buttons for us, like, share, subscribe if you're new, and come catch me in my Discord server where you can yell at me for being a lousy YouTuber that doesn't have a schedule. All the links are below. Thanks again to all of my patrons. I've been your imaginary underworld apostate, NotJah Witness. Cheers for watching.